A warm welcome to you here at THEKI, your podcast for consciousness, health, and happiness. And today I want to talk with you about the fascinating topic of dark matter, dark energy, or also black light. It's more than you think. This series will be broadcast in 2 parts, and part 1 is coming today and is called Reconciliation with Darkness. It's really about fully restoring your own power, fully embracing it again. Terms like shadow work are on everyone's lips. Everyone talks about it. Yes, we have to integrate our shadows and so on, but hardly anyone actually does it. Or rather, hardly anyone understands what is really meant by it. But right now, in today's times and with the current challenges, we are being invited to reconcile with the darkness within us, and thus also with the darkness outside of us, to integrate it as part of ourselves. And yes, a lot of so-called light work denies the darkness, and denying the darkness always means that you are denying a part of yourself. Fear of the darkness means that you are afraid of a part within yourself, that you suppress it, and therefore you also don't trust yourself. And you lose a great deal of energy by rejecting and suppressing parts of yourself instead of integrating them and using them as your strength. And with darkness, it's very important to note that I don't mean evil. That's the trick. That has been drilled into us for thousands of years. By equating darkness with evil, it became possible to control people by making them afraid of themselves, of this darkness within. As a result, they turned more and more outward and became increasingly easy to control. Of course, the church played a major role in this, but so did many other institutions interested in maintaining control. And now I ask you at this point whether you will consciously join me on a journey to understand darkness, to de-demonize it, and to equate it within yourself with all the light that you are. I invite you to immerse yourself in a deep inner peace through this redemption, to truly make peace with yourself, and thereby also with the world. And by doing so, you are also nourishing peace in the outside world, which is so needed right now. Are you ready? Then let us now look together at the topics that are important so that we can once again think, feel, and act holistically in this area as well. Being whole always means including all levels, and if we exclude one level, in this case darkness, then we are no longer thinking holistically. As mentioned, there will be 2 podcast episodes on this topic. Today we will focus on suppression, on the suppression of dark matter, of darkness, on the suppression of the feminine, which is connected to this, the weakening of the masculine, and also shadow work. It's about making peace with darkness and much more. In the next podcast, there will already be a little preview. There, we will specifically talk about dark matter, about our crystalline body and physical body, and how we can unite all of this so that we truly step into our power. There will also be a very, very powerful meditation to cleanse and unite these bodies. Look forward to it. But a bit of groundwork is necessary, and that's what we'll do today. So let's begin. The suppression of the feminine is, first of all, something that was really established by the church, making only the masculine good, while the feminine is dangerous, seductive, sinful, and so on. And with that, not only were women themselves weakened and subordinated to men, but more importantly, feminine energy was demonized. But feminine energy also means that people stopped engaging with darkness, with inspiration, with the effect that comes from deep within, with everything that manifests inside us before it becomes visible on the outside. Everything feminine is also connected to darkness. It possesses the power of the moon, while the masculine has the power of the sun. If we want to engage with the feminine, it always involves to some extent going through the dark, through darkness, through the new era, now through this age of ascension. People say quite clearly that the feminine power is returning. But what does that actually mean? Are women simply becoming stronger now, or how should we understand this? I understand it to mean that within all of us, whether male or female, this feminine power is being re-established, is being strengthened again, that it is allowed to come out of the prison it has been trapped in for thousands of years. And with the feminine power, our feelings return, feelings we no longer have to be ashamed of. Our intuition returns, and our very clear and definite power of manifestation returns as well. That means the feminine being reawakened and strengthened means that we once again become masters of manifestation, that we can truly use our creative power again, that we can truly balance all the forces within us, the masculine and the feminine. Point 2 is no less important, namely the weakening of the masculine. At first that might sound like a contradiction, because if the feminine was suppressed, then the masculine must have been strengthened, right? But that's not actually the case. Because when something is overburdened, when the masculine is suddenly supposed to cover 80%, even though it's actually meant to be a certain proportion, then the masculine becomes overwhelmed. It has to cover areas and enter into aspects of life, and even our emotional world, for example, where it has no experience, where it wasn't made for. And then, of course, these areas are also weakened, because now there's an energy involved that really doesn't know its way around, that isn't competent enough. So, by placing the masculine above the feminine and portraying it as the more important, stronger, and only force, we've actually weakened it, thrown it out of balance, and overwhelmed it. Masculine and feminine can only be in their full power when they are in balance, just like yin and yang. One cannot exist without the other. And as soon as there is an imbalance, we lose energy somewhere. At this point, I also want to add that it's really pointless and unnecessary here to discuss whether this suppression was consciously initiated or not. And finding someone to blame doesn't help us either. What matters is to recognize the current state and now to redirect our energies in the right direction for our own wholeness, and thus for the wholeness of the world. Because the world is within you and you are the world. Nature teaches us this everywhere. The seed is masculine, the egg is feminine. All life consists simultaneously of masculine and feminine aspects. Nothing can be separated there. And that is one of the reasons why, in the THEKI seminars, I place such great importance on bringing these energies into balance and resolving all the primal issues that block or disturb them, whether they come from the ancestral line or from other incarnations, because only then do we truly have access to these wonderful primal forces. I'm currently in Cape Town, and here many walls are painted, beautifully painted houses from the outside, and they have sayings on them. And just as I was working on this podcast, I saw a wall, which I also photographed and posted. It said, "It takes both sun and rain for a flower to grow." Yes, and we always somehow only want the sun, we don't want the rain, but without rain there is no life. And we just need to realize that what we prefer is often simply our comfort zone, because we're afraid of the other thing. The concept of finding love within the darkness is the next major point that I have worked out and developed. And now it's really about several subpoints. So the darkness is sacred. Darkness is our origin. We all come from darkness. In the womb, it was dark. And now we have become afraid of femininity and darkness, suppressing truly essential energies within us. But the key does not lie in suppression, never. The key always lies in mastering the darkness by engaging with it and thus mastering it. The key always lies in mastering that which we fear. Many people are afraid of the darkness with different kinds of fear. Some are simply afraid of being in the dark. Others are afraid to look within themselves, into their shadows, into their darkness. There are different fears associated with darkness, but ultimately it is all fear of the darkness. And if you're now wondering how you could engage with the darkness in order to resolve something there and truly master it, then I would like to share a few tips with you that can help you recognize what is still hidden in the dark within you and how you can transform and integrate it so that it becomes available to you as your strength and empowers you in your wholeness. The first point is doing shadow work. So it's about shadow work, which is truly important and goes deep. What have you not looked at yet? What have you not yet transformed within yourself? What are you ashamed of? What must no one know? What must no one notice? What have you perhaps been hiding your whole life or for years? What are you so deeply ashamed of that you've built a huge layer over it, made of fake smiles, of supposed happiness, and underneath there's still that little girl or little boy who feels ashamed? Maybe these questions are triggering something in you right now, and memories from your childhood or youth are coming to mind. Things you've never told anyone, things you were truly ashamed of or couldn't handle, so you locked them away in your inner dark basement. I often talk about the monsters in the basement, and this is exactly what I mean. But these monsters want to come out, and they want to be acknowledged as parts of yourself. They want to be reintegrated. They wanted to be recognized again that, in fact, they're not really monsters at all, but rather parts of yourself that, out of necessity at some point. You could say you misinterpreted. You became afraid of them, and maybe you didn't have any competent adult support to help you through certain processes. And so you just locked them away, but they keep knocking again and again. And every time it costs you an enormous amount of strength, of life energy to keep that basement door shut and prevent the monsters from coming out. But it's much easier if you just let them out for once. Bring these parts out now, let them come into the light of your awareness, and simply accept them. Hey, every one of us has done something embarrassing as a child, a teenager, or maybe even as an adult, or has experienced something embarrassing. Sometimes it wasn't even about doing something bad. In most cases, we didn't want to do anything bad. It was just a feeling that drove us, or simply an experience we wanted to have. No one needs to be ashamed of that. It's about not only loving the light-filled parts of yourself, but also letting your awareness flow like light into all the unloved parts of yourself, as well as into areas of your life, relationships, and past events, allowing it to flow everywhere. And in this way, you make peace everywhere, resolving everything within you that is still unresolved. That's what it's about. Having the courage to look closely and making the decision that everything belongs to you and can be accepted in love. And in this way, a shadow becomes an integrated part of your soul, and afterwards you feel so much more complete and powerful than before. And you're no longer afraid. You're no longer afraid of being exposed or caught. Someone might discover your secret. No, it's simply free, and that makes you free. It frees you to communicate with other people, to connect, and also in a certain way to show yourself naked. I don't mean that physically. And at the same time, you also gain more energy because you no longer have to use your life force to suppress it. That's what shadow work is about. And point 2, you can work directly with darkness by seeking out darkness in your everyday life. So, your engagement with darkness can be very concrete in your daily life, namely when it is dark. For example, you can simply decide to leave artificial lights off much more often. You don't always have to turn them on. Why do we actually always turn them on? Just sit in the dark for a while, at most with a few candles. That's natural. That's how ancient peoples always lived. When it got dark, it was dark. No one turned on any artificial lights and kept going for hours. No, with sunset, darkness arrived and you could simply be in the dark. Try moving around in the dark, even outside, and observe yourself while doing it. Consciously allow yourself to experience this adventure of darkness. Are you afraid? Do you keep turning around to check if someone is behind you? Or do you actually feel comfortable, even protected, in the darkness? If you can't see anyone, then no one can see you either, or at least that's one way to look at it. Observe yourself. When it's dark, do you immediately look for the nearest light switch? Or just imagine it's nighttime and you have to walk, say, another 50 meters from your parking spot to your destination, which is also in the dark, until you reach it and can turn on the light. How does that feel for you? Do you keep turning around in all directions? Are you afraid? Or do you stretch yourself far out into the darkness and feel, smell, and sense everything? Do you expand your senses? Do you embrace the darkness as a part of yourself? And does it even remain dark at all when you accept the darkness? If you really go into the darkness, does it stay dark, or do you start to see in the darkness when you truly look into it? It's not dark at all. There is light everywhere. There are tiny particles of light everywhere. Observe yourself. If you still have uncomfortable feelings in the darkness, it might have something to do with your inner world. In fact, it's almost certain that it has to do with your inner world, not the outer one. And then you'll get to the bottom of it. Face your fears and resolve the traumas that underlie them. Learn to feel just as good in the dark as you do in the light. See it as a challenge. Just try it for a few days or even a few weeks. Go outside again in the evening. Don't turn on the light so much, and maybe if you're lying awake at night, just sit up in bed, meditate, and embrace the darkness. Use the situations that arise in your life to personally encounter darkness with love and to embrace it. Learn to see in the dark. Darkness is not dark once you know it. The experiences you can gain by working on yourself in this way are so valuable. They can truly free you from all fears little by little. Anyone who is no longer afraid of this darkness has no fear at all. Point 3. Meditate on the darkness. So you can simply sit down, close your eyes, and just be in that darkness, in your inner darkness. Simply when your eyes are closed and you turn inward. Because we are programmed to always look more and more outward, so the flow of energy goes from the inside out. We look at what happens outside, what others are doing, what others are saying and thinking, and that's where we find our place somehow. But if we reverse the flow of energy and turn inward from the outside to the inside, then we also enter the darkness to some extent, where at first we see nothing, where our physical eyes are not needed, but our inner eyes are trained by this, and they gradually begin to see. Just wait and see what reveals itself to you when you simply accept that you are now going inward into the darkness. Your inner world is always dark at first, and that's completely normal. There is nothing unusual about that. Outside it is bright. When we have our eyes open, it is bright, and inside it is dark. Inside us is darkness. Do you understand? How could we actually reject it when it is inside us? Are we afraid of the darkness? Then we are afraid of ourselves, of all the unexplored parts within us. Explore them. Learn to recognize this darkness as an important part of yourself, and ideally, to live it. And that is a huge step toward your wholeness. From the darkness, the seeds of the new grow. We are allowed to bless them and consciously choose to sow these seeds. Which seeds are we sowing? I always ask you that. Which seeds am I sowing? And to truly nurture these wonderful new energies. To truly nurture the seeds that you really want to see grow. Inner and outer are one. Light and darkness are one. We cannot ascend if we only accept half of our being, if we only want to be full of light. The darkness is also full of light, just in a different quality. If you have read my book Involution, then you know that I partly remember the initiations that were performed in ancient, that is, pre-dynastic Egypt. And an important part of these initiations was to purify oneself and then go completely into the darkness. This was done by sitting or rather lying down in a sarcophagus and then went into silence. The sarcophagus was then sealed with a heavy stone slab by a trusted person. So that didn't scare us at first. I know some people will feel queasy just hearing this explanation because it's reminiscent of being buried alive. And this quality was indeed used to some extent only where possible in a completely positive sense. Because we die many deaths in life. Again and again we are reborn within a single lifetime. We repeatedly go through such significant times that we feel as if we have died and been reborn. Maybe not everyone experiences this so consciously or so dramatically, but it happens in every human life. And by entering into darkness and also cold during these initiations back then, which, by the way, are both feminine energies, one fully attuned oneself to them. So, instead of fighting against it and complaining about how cold and dark it was, one adapted to it. One did not resist it, but rather embarked on this journey with full awareness. And of course, there were different phases in which both breathing and heartbeat slowed down, and profound processes of healing and renewal took place. You can also compare this to anabiosis based on the information you can find about it. But the challenge was to remain conscious in this deep trance, not to get entangled, and not to get stuck anywhere. In addition to traveling through the 7 levels, I explain this in more detail in the book Involution, if you're interested. Here, I'm just touching on it briefly. So we have the 7 levels which are traversed during these initiations, and through this we were confronted with the deepest depths of our own selves. We were confronted with our own infinity, not in the sense of I somehow experience myself, I understand that I am infinite, but truly in the absolute experience. And this experience was usually a journey of enlightenment. If you underwent this initiation too early, it could also turn into a journey through the abyss. If you were attached to something or entangled somewhere, you basically got stuck there, and then it became a journey through hell, and you continued on in this life within lower aspects. But usually you could truly become enlightened afterward. Everything was possible. In a certain way, both personally and as humanity, we are once again going through such processes today. Only now, it is through a different level of reality on the outside, which mirrors our inner world. We are all living through our own personal hero's journey, each one of us, and it is we who decide where we end up in the end. This ending will also be a new beginning, and we always equate an ending with darkness. The beginning is light, the end is always darkness. But how can there be a beginning if there is never an end? It all belongs together. Accept the end as well. Embrace the end of certain things in your life. The beginning of our new life is the start, whether it's tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, or in endless times. Yes, that's all for today on the topic of darkness. And as announced, in the next podcast, we'll continue specifically with dark matter, dark energy, plasma, crystal bodies, and how we can cleanse all of this within ourselves and bring it into unity. It would be good if you could take into account the tips I gave you today beforehand. Just try working with them a bit this week. Reflect on yourself a little before you listen to the next podcast, and then you might already be a good step further along. Thank you so much for being here.